Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
It's not my fault. It's the air bliss. Everyone. Not my fault, Dr. Shealy.
You're not supposed to say that.
Oh, jeez. I think I overdid it today. Oh, jeez. And this, Dr. Shealy, did you change your formula? Because I put on the latest Air Bliss that you brought over when you came over to the farm.
No change.
No change. Okay. Just I guess maybe I just put a little too much on. Okay. So, this is USAPrepares.com. Dr. Norman Shealy's with us. And if you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line is up and running, and you can take us with you as you travel. It's on like a continuous loop, 24 hours a day, 605-477-3249, 605-477-3249. Andy is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. Dr. Norman Shealy's with us live in Springfield, Missouri. And I'm Vin Finelli, and I'm on the farm in Wright County, Missouri. So, Dr. Shealy, anything new that you'd like to share with us?
Well, not really. I guess I've just been typing up all the PR for my book, Conversations with G. It's a tedious process to get it promoted, but it's worth it.
Mm-hmm. Great. And so when will that be available for us to read?
Well, I should have given you a copy already. I'll send you one. The official publication.
Well, no, I know that, but
well, it'll be out by the end of September.
I have. Okay, all right. I have that copy. I thought maybe there was more to it that you were talking about. Okay.
No, this
right.
is the.
Well,
this is the
Dr. Shealy, Okay. Well, Dr. Shealy, I'd like to connect some dots. Our son went to Walmart. When they travel through, let's say, Lebanon, Missouri, or Springfield, Missouri, and they'll try to make the trip count, and they'll say, I'll pick up those frozen peas at Walmart or wherever they happen to be. And one of our boys was getting some frozen foods, and it's not any different from what it used to be back in the 1950s or 1960s. You go to the supermarket, you get the frozen foods, you put them in that brown paper bag, that frozen food bag, and they've remained almost or somewhat unchanged since the 1950s. I'm talking about the bags. They used to be double thick. Now they're single thick, but they're still about the same size, these brown frozen food bags. Well, our son was looking for the brown frozen food bags, and they didn't have them. And then another time he went, they didn't have them. So he asked the guy, so what's up with the bags? How come you guys don't have these brown frozen food bags? Now, just hold that thought. Well, he was told, well, people take 20 of them at a time, and they don't buy any frozen foods. So hold that thought. Now, a couple days ago, I was, and this all ties together, I was talking with this gal, and the booming business in our neck of the woods here in Missouri is hauling the Amish. So the Amish have their black buggies and their horses, but if they want to go to town, a 30-mile trip, it's a little too long for that horse and buggy ride. So they use their horse and buggies around, a couple miles, but they don't, maybe 5 miles, but they don't take them on 30-mile trips to Walmart. Well, so they hire the locals, and the locals, they'll receive a call from the Amish guys and hey, can you take us to this destination? They say, sure, be right over. And the Amish pay the locals for, this taxi service, if you will. Well, it's more than just a couple people in the taxi now, if you will. It's become the whole family. So, for example, if they're from Ohio or New York or Pennsylvania, and there's a death in the family, the entire Amish family that's just moved to Missouri wants to go back. So one of the gals bought a van, big van to haul, maybe 10 people, 12 people. And she was describing this van, and now it's a used van, and she wants us to check it out and make sure it's safe and, roadworthy and all that kind of stuff. So it's relatively new, but she still wants the Finelli garage to look at it and make sure everything's, up to par. And she was saying that, it's a basic van, and it has has rubber mat instead of carpeting and vinyl seats. And she said that's all really good because the Amish throw up a lot. Now,
I did not know that.
Well, what's that got to do with the bags? Well, I think that people are going to Walmart and they're getting airsick bags, also known as frozen food bags, and they're taking them home because they're hauling the Amish to wherever, that destination. So I think that is the mystery of the brown frozen food bags disappearing from Walmart. So,
good show, Sherlock.
So there actually is a question here, but I think that really is the real answer. So I remember, when I first got in a car when I was very, very young, I would have motion sickness, and it was unpleasant. Of course, I haven't had that in maybe 60 years, but when I was young, I did, and I have a feeling that it's the same kind of thing that the Amish haven't been going, typically 60, 70 miles an hour, swerving and swaying, and brakes being slammed on for the to avoid the guy hitting the guy in front of you, that kind of stuff. And it's unsettling to them because, well, their buggies don't go that fast, right? They're going 5 miles an hour, not 10 times that speed or 12 or 15 times that speed.
You're really sharp today, Vince.
It's the bliss, I'm telling you. Next time I get audited, Dr. Shealy, I know the answer. The answer is bliss. I'm ready for my next audit.
Read on the auditor.
Okay. Boy, seriously, this is, I didn't think I overdid it, but I must have. So anyway, is there something that a person could do if they are susceptible to motion sickness? And I wonder if it has to do with experience, being, I can't remember anybody saying, boy, I get really car sick. I haven't heard that in a long time. I mean, half a century.
Well, as a matter of fact, there is a point on the wrist, which is good for motion sickness. It's actually called Master of the Heart, a pericardium 6. If you put your thumb sideways, right at the very bottom of the front of your hand, at the beginning of the wrist, just beyond your thumb, just beyond the bones in the wrist, is Master of the Heart 6. That point you could just stimulate physically, kind of vigorously, because tapping or stimulating a point can activate it almost as well as a needle. Mm-hmm. You do that on both wrists. That is a traditional point for nausea.
Okay. So for those of you who, have very young people who seem car sick, that seems like a great way to go. Now, typically, the word I remember is Dramamine, right? Wasn't that used for for airplane sickness or motion sickness, Dramamine?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is, but it's, it has many so-called side effects, like drowsiness.
Okay. Very good. So I think I know one of the reasons why I was fired by my pulmonologist. And, well, I was reading this article. It's amazing. Well, and this is in studyfinds.org. And here's the headline. Doctors give patients 11 seconds to explain a reason for a visit before interrupting. So what this article is saying is you go to the doctor's office and the doctor says, hi. And you say, hi. Now you got 11 seconds to explain why you're there. And then the doctor cuts you off. Now, I'm not talking about Dr. Shealy or Dr. Sergey Soren or Dr. Howard Shane or Dr. M.L. Shane. I'm talking about, I guess, what the study found that the average medical doctor does. And I guess the doctors don't want to hear it. Or they're saying, wait a minute, we only got 7 minutes here, and you just can't, we don't have time for you to explain what you think is wrong or what the symptoms are. So we're going to cut right to the chase. The doctor is going to tell you what the symptoms are, and you're going to say, okay, and then you're out of there. What do you think's up with that, Dr. Shealy, assuming that this study has some validity to it?
I consider it insanity, but I mean, Vince, I can honestly say, except in the emergency room, I don't see a new patient in less than a half hour minimum. And that's a half hour if they request just a focused visit. But I have an hour if it's a new patient. And that's how long it takes to really, to me, to do a thorough job of finding out why and what is going on. I can't imagine doing it in 7 minutes, let alone 30 seconds or less.
Well, I spent the better part of the weekend with one of our instructors, Dr. Howard Shane. He's a dentist. And so he and I, work on projects on his house, and I'm helping him with his farm, and we're doing things together to, upgrade, repair, and I asked him that question. He said, first visit, it's an hour long for his dental practice. Same thing that you just said. We'll be right back. Class Dr. Norman Shealy's with us in the front of the class. And so in Florida, researchers from the University of Florida determined that for all the waiting that we do after we arrive at a medical practitioner's office, it's the doctors who seem to have the least amount of patience. And so the study goes on to say that just a third of the physicians give the patients an adequate time to explain why the patients are there. So typically what happens is, well, let me read this to you. So the team specifically analyzed the first few minutes of 112 consultations, looking to find out how frequently the doctors let the patients dictate the conversation through inquiries such as, so the doctor would say, so tell me, what brings you in today? Or the doctor says, so what can I do for you today? And then the patients are given the opportunity to set the agenda. The researchers timed the responses to see how long the patient could speak before the doctor interrupted them. And the results showed that 36% of the doctors asked questions to allow the patients to set the agenda, but 2/3 of the doctors, of those patients, were interrupted after responding. And it says researchers calculated that doctors cut patients off 11 seconds on average into a response. That the patients...
Vince, the interesting is, I have patients fill out 3 forms and take them a minimum of a half hour to fill out to give me all that background information, and I still need probably another 10 to 20 minutes to find out why they're here.
Yeah, because it's complex, right? Everything's connected.
It's just not an ingrown toenail.
Right. So here we have in Florida now. I would think that there's probably a higher percentage of seniors in Florida than maybe in other states. Maybe that I'm imagining that may not be true, but gosh, it also goes on to say that the results showed that only 20% of specialists give the patient the opportunity to describe their issue at the onset of the consultation. Though it's certainly possible because they've already been described on, patient's referral or nurse's inquiry. So maybe the doctor has some information ahead of time. But wow, it's I would think that if I were a medical doctor, I'd want to hear if it's a first visit, I'd want to hear the person try to explain to me what's going on. That would tell me a lot of things. Communication ability, maybe they're stuttering, maybe they're shaking. I mean, I'd be looking at a lot of things. Well, let me ask you, Dr. Shealy, what do you look at? So, new patient, they've already filled out this questionnaire of multiple pages, and have you read through it before meeting the patient, or do you read through it while the patient is right in front of you?
It depends. If they didn't get it to me by the time they walked in, to register for the meeting, then I do it in their presence. Sometimes they sit there and fill it out. But if they actually brought it in and handed it in when they sit down, I read it in advance.
Okay. And then does that... Okay, so you have this in your hand, and then so how does the dialogue go? Do you say what brings you here today, and leave it, direct it that way so the patient can respond and say...
Interestingly, I also... in the registration sheet, they've listed, they have several lines to list their number one reason for being here, number 1, 2, and 3, as well as their medications and stuff like that. So I look at that, and I say, okay, so your real problem is major depression or pain in your back. But I already know whether or not they're depressed because one of my tests tells that. I know how many total symptoms they have, and I know how much they're stressed. I have a total life stress exam. So I know a great deal about them, and I've already scored those.
So, all right, then, when you meet with the patient, is that initial few minutes to confirm what you already thought based on what you read, based on their responses on this questionnaire?
Yes, but if it's not clear, I have another question.
Great. Okay. Dr. Shealy and I will be back in just a few minutes. We're going to the bottom of the hour commercials. And if you'd like to contact Dr. Shealy, normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com. Dr. Shealy's a medical doctor. We'll be right back. Dr. Norm Shealy's in the front of the classroom today. And Dr. Shealy, I was reading an article, dailymail.co.uk, and the article it's a recent article. I mean, it's just a couple days old. And the headline is Cancer Cluster in New York. That'd be New York, USA. Officials investigating spike in leukemia, bladder, lung, and thyroid cancers on Long Island. That's Long Island, New York City. And it goes on to say an average of 18,000 cases of cancer per year were found on Long Island between 2011 and 2015, 16% of all the cases in New York State. Statistically significant rates of leukemia, bladder, lung, and thyroid cancers were seen in the areas of Center Reach, Farmingville, and Selden, New York. Experts say that a deeper dive in the data needs to be made to identify the subtypes of cancer as well as potential occupational or environmental exposures. So it seems like there's a cancer cluster on Long Island in New York City, Long Island, right, as part of New York City. Yeah, and they don't know exactly whether it's airborne, waterborne, environmental, or did people just with cancer all move there? But there's a lot of cancer. About 16% of the cancers in New York are in this particular area. And so how many cancers? The numbers are staggering. So the estimates of leukemia, bladder, lung, and thyroid cancer diagnosed in the United States, this is all of the United States, according to the National Cancer Institute, is bladder cancer, 81,000 incidents of bladder cancer each year in the United States. Leukemia, 60,000. Lung cancer, 230. Excuse me?
That is very interesting. My wife was born in Port Jefferson, Long Island.
Uh-huh.
Her father, her grandmother, her uncle, and my wife, even though they did not live in Port Jefferson except the original mother, all had leukemia.
Okay, so let me give you the numbers for the 4 cancers that they've determined. This is according to the National Cancer Institute. Bladder cancer, this is per year, 81,000 across the entire United States. Leukemia, 60,000. Lung cancer, 234,000. And thyroid cancer, 54,000. And, you know, over the years that I've been around, I've noticed, you know, we'll call them cancer clusters because of environmental factors. There was a Love Canal, and where the Hooker Chemical Company poisoned the ground. And then you have, there are spots in New Jersey where insecticide manufacturers were dumping poisons into the rivers. And and then you have the high tension power lines, and then you have the microwave. So there are cancer clusters. And then there are companies that make products that are dangerous, like Johns Manville. Johns Manville made lots of insulation. Heck, you know, the fiberglass insulation was almost synonymous with the name Johns Manville back in the 1970s, maybe the 60s as well. And employees that worked there had a higher incidence of cancer than others. That would be from the fibers, you know, in the lungs, these glass fibers and irritating the lungs. So leukemia, 60,000 in the United States, and you have in your family way too many, Dr. Shealy. So,
four members. Now it does cover 3 generations, but still it's noticeable. And all 4 of them were born in Port Jefferson, Long Island. And, of course, her father and brother grew up there. My wife moved away with the family when she was maybe 6 or 7.
Okay. I just looked up, I just typed in to a search engine, Johns, Johns, Manville, Manville, cancer. And Wikipedia, Johns Manville is an American corporation based in Denver, Colorado that manufactures, and it goes ... thousands of individual and class action lawsuits based on asbestos-related injuries such as asbestosis, lung cancer, and malignant mesothelioma. That's Johns Manville. And it says that executives knew about the asbestos cancer connection long before, I guess they admitted it. That's Johns Manville. So I think that we've done a lot of damage to ourselves based on corporate greed and individual greed. You know, I really do. I was in Virginia, and I saw something that I'd never seen before, and it's very simple, and it's probably very common. So this farmer had a truck, and he wanted to change the oil. Now, when I change the oil, I get a container, like an oil drain pan, and I put it under the vehicle, and I drain the oil into the oil drain pan, and then I bring that used oil at the time to a recycling center where it would be used for another purpose. Well, what I saw was a farmer just take the drain plug, remove it, and let the oil run on the ground. I couldn't believe it. It was irresponsible, but that was common. You know, what do you do with the old oil? I just leave it on the ground. Really? And then in cities, I've read, I haven't really seen it, but I've read what people do is they they pull their car near a storm drain, one of those cast iron grates in the city streets, and they just get under the car like they're working on it, and they just pull the drain plug out and let the oil run down the store. That's what they do. Not everybody, but some people. And that's crazy. Absolutely crazy. But, well, that's part of individual greed, right? People doing
unfortunately, it's not just greed. To me, it's beyond that. It is unbelievable ignorance, stupidity, arrogance, greed, yes. But everything else goes with it. It's the worst of human nature.
Mm-hmm. I don't have the story in front of me, Dr. Shealy, but I've been mentioning over the years about something I called mini-max regret. It's something I learned back in the 1970s at the university, and it's a financial kind of way of looking at how do you minimize your maximum regret. So let's say you're going to make an investment and you want to buy some investment, and you go, geez, boy, I sure would regret it if. Well, what do you do to minimize that? So that's what this economic theory is about. Well, I've applied that to everything, and I've mentioned this scenario on the air and in person to a lot of people, and I've told every class that I've taught about mini-max regret, minimizing your maximum regret. And I explain it this way. So bear with me, class, if you heard this story before, but there's a new twist to it, and it's a killer. So you're driving along on the interstate, and there's this pickup truck with a ladder hanging out the back, and it's on a diagonal. It's in the pickup bed, and it doesn't look like it's tied down. You go, gosh, that ladder's pretty long. I'm kind of surprised it's in there. And the guy's not in the slow lane. He's in the fast lane. He's just flying down the highway, and you think, gosh, the wind resistance is going to pull that ladder right out of the back of the pickup truck. That ladder is going to be traveling. I sure don't want that to go through my windshield. So my maximum regret in that situation is I sure don't want that going through my windshield. I don't want to wear that ladder through my windshield. So what do I do to minimize that maximum regret? I back off. If I can get around this guy, I safely, without increasing the risk of wearing that ladder through the windshield, that's what I do. But I am not in so much of a hurry as I am going to ride that guy's tail, because that doesn't do any good anyway. I don't want that ladder going through my vehicle. So first thing I do is back off real quickly. All right. Well, I've been telling that story, and we've all seen the ladder, but not all of us have seen exactly what I'm going to tell you next. I don't have the story in front of me, so I can't tell you exactly where it was, but it was in the United States. It was a couple weeks ago, at the most. So there was this landscaping guy, and he was driving the landscaping dump truck, small dump truck, maybe one that could hold 26,000 pounds. So it wasn't a full-size dump truck, but it was a smaller than that. And so he was driving this dump truck, and there's a big boulder in the center bed of this dump truck. And it had one strap, nylon strap, ratcheting to hold it from moving. Now, if I were driving that dump truck, it would not be one strap. It'd be 16 straps. I mean, it'd be strapped every way to Sunday, so it wouldn't move. Because I know that when you accelerate, that boulder would want to go right out the back of the tailgate. If you slam on your brakes, it'd want to go through the driver's cab. So I wouldn't want any of that to happen. On a sharp curve, if I had to, have an evasive maneuver, it might go through the side of the dump truck. So I'd have it strapped down front, back, sideways, every way you can think of. Well, this guy had one strap, which I think was totally inadequate, in my opinion, because I saw the picture of it. Then he had two smaller, large rocks, and the estimate was about 800 pounds for each one of those. So this one big one and two much, much smaller rocks. Now, the smaller ones weren't strapped down. So he's going down the highway, and one of these 800-pound rocks, the small one, came out of the back of the dump truck, landed on the car's hood behind him, and killed both people in the car. Minimax regret. That is the extension of the story about the ladder in probably a close to a worst-case scenario. Please consider that when you're driving. We'll be right back. From Shealy.com, I found the article, NewYorkPost.com, July 12th, 2018. Headline, Mom and Daughter Killed by Giant Boulder That Fell Off Truck. Here's the article. An 800-pound boulder fell off a dump truck, killing 2 women on a Minnesota road and leading to the trucker's arrest after leaving the scene, police said. Karen Christensen, 67, and her daughter, Jenna Christensen, 32, died on Monday afternoon near St. Paul when a massive rock, which was not secured, dislodged from the back of a truck and crashed into their Toyota Avalon, officials said. Both women were pronounced dead at the scene from blunt force trauma to their heads. The truck driver, 32-year-old, was arrested and booked on 2 counts of vehicular manslaughter. He did not stop at the scene and was picked up by the authorities. And there's a comment that says, you could try to duplicate this a million times and you wouldn't get the same results, Rosemont Police Chief Mitchell Scott said to the press. The thing is that this could have been prevented if the load had been secured. And I believe that's all true. Yes, it could have been prevented because the smaller 800-pound rocks, the 2 of them that were in the picture on this pickup truck, dump truck, were not secured. And my advice and counsel to our class is consider what might fall out of the truck in front of you that has not been secured. And a pet peeve of mine, Dr. Shealy, and I don't know if it's, well, I'll bet it's similar in your neck of the woods because you live in a very rural area. But farmers drive these trucks. They're like pickup trucks, but instead of having a bed with 4 sides, 3 sides and a tailgate, they have sometimes these flat beds. They're absolutely flat, like a sheet of steel, and they put stuff on them. And like gas cans and concrete blocks and rolls of barbed wire, and it'll stay there, right? They think that there's some kind of a magical force that will hold whatever it is they have on this flat piece of steel where their pickup bed used to be, and now they just have this flat surface that they think that load is going to stay there. And I'm convinced it's not going to stay there, and that's why I maintain extra distance. Have you seen that in your neck of the woods, Dr. Shealy? Unsafe loads?
Oh, yes. Most of the time, what I see that bothers me more than anything is those great, huge, round bales of hay. Not round, mm-hmm. the huge bales of hay. I mean, they weigh half a ton, I think.
They weigh exactly half a ton. Those are the ones that we have. And I got to tell you, we haul them a couple miles, just literally from one field to another. But we put them on a trailer and we strap them down. And not only that, we have a tractor that's pulling them. And the tractor has this slow-moving vehicle sign on it. The trailer has lights on it. Then we have a lead car, a lead truck. And then we have a following truck. So there's a caravan that we use to protect. And we have 3 two-way radios. And we say, okay, there's a car coming up. So we wait till we have a scout to make sure that no cars are coming when we pull out with the trailer. Then we have a car following the trailer to make sure that no one is going to run into the back of the trailer with 4-way flashers running. Then we have a lead car with 4-way flashers, headlights, and we signal, high beams, low beams, oncoming cars, let them know that there's something ahead that they ought to pay attention to. That's how we do it. But it takes 3 people to do that. So I think you're saying that you've seen that with just one vehicle, right?
Oh, yes. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, carelessness. Absolute carelessness. So I wanted to share that story because I think you can avoid a trip to the emergency room by minimax regret, minimizing that maximum regret. Dr. Shealy, do you have any things that you would like to chat with us about when we come back after top of the hour news and commercial announcements?
Well, let's talk about purpose in life.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. I've got some questions and stories. And here's a guy that wants to get on the plane. Looks like he's running a little late. So he doesn't want to miss his United flight. So what do you do if you have a cell phone and you think you're going to miss your flight? Well, you call in a bomb threat. What a bozo this guy was. And of course, he got arrested. But really, it's that important to derail everybody because you're running late? We'll be right back. Everyone all set, cocked, locked. Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Dr. Shealy, I just went outside to check the solar system, the charging rate, and so forth, and the cooling, and just like a fall day, it's absolutely wonderful out. It's cool. The sun is not so bright that it hurts. It's kind of nice in our neck of the woods. How about where you are in Springfield?
About the same, yes. You know,
really kind of nice.
Upper 60s last night, and low to mid 80s. You know, that's
it's kind of nice.
Rest of July and some of June. This is wonderful.
Yeah. So, purpose of life, purpose in life. Dr. Shealy, you wanted to talk about that. That sounds quite interesting.
Well,
purpose of
you
life.
know, I think everybody, sooner or later, has some question of why. Why am I here? What am I supposed to be here to? What is my purpose? Now, to me, there's only one purpose. It's very simple. It's to help other people. That's all. Now, it doesn't matter how you help other people. I mean, Andy, for instance, is essential for you and me to be able to do this. But Andy has a whole bunch of other people backing him up. And the same is true. The Amish, of course, try to do everything for themselves, but it doesn't leave much time for other creativity. If you have to do make your own energy, so to speak, you have all your own food, all your own clothes, all your own buildings, you don't have any time to do anything else. Now, that is helping the people in your family, perhaps, but it isn't doing a great deal for the rest of humanity. So to me, assuming, knowing, realizing that your only purpose is to help other people, then you have another essential requirement to take care of yourself so that you're not a drag on other people. That's simple. Norm's philosophy in 2 sentences.
Absolutely fascinating. And of course, over my lifetime, I've wondered, why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? Is that really pain that I'm feeling? When I hit my thumb with a hammer, I think it really hurts a lot. Or am I imagining this? Is this a dream?
I don't think I
ever think about.
Well, I guess, of course, whenever one has an illness or a major injury, you have to have a reason, an understanding. But I don't think those things are to torture us. They are part of the complexity of being in the physical form. I mean, we are not, we're not as strong in many respects as a lion or a tiger. And so we have to take care of ourselves in every possible way. And we can't really, in most climates, it would be, Missouri would not be a place you could live without adequate shelter and adequate clothes. At least 6 months out of the year, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's true much of the earth. I mean, maybe at the equator you could live without clothes, but then you've got to have food. And you need some kind of shelter, even in the tropics, to protect you from the lions and the tigers, among other things. So I think just understanding that we have to take care of ourselves in order to do something else. And there's something else is helping other people. Now, just as important as the person who painted this room I'm in is just as important as I am, because I couldn't be in this room if somebody else hadn't built it and put it together for me.
As you say this, I was thinking about barriers to entry. That would be an economic kind of or a financial kind of a concept. Like, you want to start your store. but there's some barriers to entry. There's some hurdles you have to go through, some permits and capital, and a lot of things need to all fall in place to be able to do that. And when you were talking about Missouri, I was thinking that where you live and where I live have a lot of barriers to entry. And that is, it's a lot harder to live on your farm and our farm because there's so many things that have to be done. It's not, the weekend is, so, well, I don't know, what do you want to do? I don't know, what do you want to do? I don't know, what do you want to do? You want to go to a ball game? You want to go to, walk around downtown? You want to go shopping and, see what's new? Those kind of things don't happen in our lives because we're so busy just doing the things that are necessary to keep the farms running, right? So the barriers to entry are where you live and where I live. You got to know a lot of things about a lot of things. And you have to be willing to work hard. Otherwise, it just flat out won't work because it's hard. It's difficult living our kind of lifestyle. Now, I wouldn't change it. I would not want to. For me, I would go stark raving mad if I lived in an apartment and everything was fixed. If I had a little mark on the wall, I'd call somebody. I'd call the landlord. This mark here on the wall is really bothering me. Can you send somebody over now to fix that? Those kinds of things. I would not be able to live in an apartment because I enjoy having a list of things to do that are extremely challenging. Things that are, some people might think it's too hard. I'd rather do something that's a little easier. I'd rather do something that's not so dirty. I'd rather not get grease all over me. I'd rather.
You should have seen my bathtub yesterday after I took a shower. I wiped up after it drained. I took 2 wet paper towels and collected about a pound of sand that came out of my garden. But I love my garden. I mean, to me, for 9 months out of the year, I must spend about 5 to 6 hours every week in order to keep my garden going.
Yeah.
Just that part of it.
Yeah.
And then it takes me at least half that same amount of time to, store and prepare the food for use the rest of the year.
I'm so glad you said that because right now, right this very second, we have green tomatoes that they look like they're ripe, but they're green, and they're the size of your fist. They're perfect for pickling. And I remember taking Mrs. Finelli to an Italian restaurant where you could have a spaghetti lunch with baguette bread and butter and all the green tomatoes you could eat with the spaghetti for $1.85. This was a long time ago. This is like maybe 1970s. And I would love to pickle these kind of sweet, kind of tart tomatoes, but I don't know how to do it. I've looked at all kinds of recipes. Do you have a recipe for that kind of a pickled green tomato, kind of sweet, kind of tart?
No, I'm sure my grandmother would have had one, but I've never done that particular one. And, I've never had fried green tomatoes either.
Okay. Well, here's an all call from USA Prepares. Class, if you have a recipe for a really great, kind of sweet, kind of sour maybe, tart, pickled green tomatoes, we'd love to hear about it, and we'll tell everyone on the air that, if you send that recipe, and that would be to instructor@usaprepares.com, instructor@usaprepares.com, and that also goes along with fried green tomatoes. So I'd love to hear about that, and I'll share it with Dr. Shealy and on our broadcast. So you'll also all know how to do it if we get a great recipe, or if I happen to find one that really works, I'll let you know about that as well. Dr. Shealy, toothpaste. Now, here's something that is kind of interesting. There was a company called Dutch Boy, and I think in the 1980s there were some environmentalists that didn't like Dutch Boys polluting the air in New Jersey, and so there were some pickets, and it kind of shut the company down a little bit. And actually, it did shut the company down for a while. And because the employees were afraid to cross the picket line because of the picketers were becoming more and more violent over the pollution of the Dutch Boy chemical plant. So what was really interesting is they were on the water. They were on a river. So the employees were brought in by boat. So they wouldn't cross the picket line. They didn't have to. They would come in by boat and dock the boat, and the employees would go to work. Well, the picketers were just so outraged at what, the pollution, and Dutch Boy had this big, tall chemical stack, that one guy climbed up with a parachute, and he climbed up this smokestack, this real tall smokestack with a parachute, put the parachute over the smokestack, and shut down the smokestack because it backed up into the chemical plant. And yeah, good on him, mate. I mean, that's kind of my kind of activist, right? So they really got the point across. And the reason I'm mentioning this is Dutch Boy used something called titanium dioxide in their paints. It's kind of it's what was used to replace lead in white paint. So titanium dioxide. Now, it's in a lot of things. So if you were to have your favorite brand of poison in a tube, also known as toothpaste, there's titanium dioxide in white toothpaste. And there is a question now, could your toothpaste be causing type 2 diabetes? And it's the white coloring that's white coloring. Let me say it a different way. White coloring. Then, do you really need to have white coloring? Well, white coloring could be titanium dioxide, and it's used in food and sunscreen and toiletries. And this particular study that I'm reading about on dailymail.co.uk says that it could be linked to type 2 diabetes because you can inhale it. And now we're finding that it may damage organs by causing inflammation and killing cells. Type 2 diabetes. So when we come back, Dr. Shealy, your thoughts on, is this possible? We'll be right back. Last, you're listening to Sonny Skidmore's favorite radio broadcast, USA Prepares with Dr. Norman Shealy. As a matter of fact, she's calling the farmhouse right now. I can see it on caller ID. And Dr. Shealy, so titanium dioxide, according to this article on dailymail.co.uk, it's saying that in the United Kingdom, there are more than 3.5 million people that have diabetes. And there are over 422 million people worldwide with diabetes. And 90% of them have type 2 diabetes. And this article is suggesting that this may be a result of damage to the pancreas by provoking an immune response from the white blood cells, causing inflammation, which kills healthy cells. And so, according to this article, titanium dioxide, this whitening agent, this whitening chemical to make this brilliant white pigment that's used in toothpaste and plastic and makeup and paper and paint and pills and sunscreens and on and on and on, is produced in, by, scientists say that since the 1960s, we've produced around 4 million tons of this chemical each year. And since the 1970s, 10 years after we started measuring how much titanium dioxide we've been producing, cases of type 2 diabetes have quadrupled. Have you found research that says that this study could be true, Dr. Shealy, that titanium dioxide could be causing diabetes?
You sprung a new one on me. I had not run across that one. I mean, I thought it was junk food, sugar, laziness, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it sounds as if it's just another poison.
Well, junk food, there are whitening agents in some junk foods. I remember, what was it? There was a cereal, and I'm not sure if it was Wheaties or something like that, and they used trisodium phosphate. So my mom called him up. I think it was General Mills at the time. Maybe it was Cheerios. She called him up, and she said, so why are you using trisodium phosphate in your cereal? Because my mom said, heck, I've got some furniture that I'm stripping the paint off of, in the basement, in the laundry tub, and I'm using trisodium phosphate to do that. Why are you, it's pretty strong stuff. It strips the paint right off wood. Why are you using it in cereal? And they said, well, to bleach it, to bleach it from what? Well, to make it more appealing looking. Heck, if you look at Wheaties or Cheerios, they're certainly not appealing looking, right? I mean, you look at the color and say,
they failed the beauty pageant.
What color would they have been if they didn't use, these absolutely strong chemical bleaching agents?
Well, remember, your average so-called white bread uses bromide, which is even at least as poison.
Yep. I'm looking up titanium dioxide in bread. I'll type of.
Surely not in addition to. Oh my!
Let's see. Chemicals added to paint. Well, you're talking about junk food. Okay. This is titanium dioxide, a paint and food additive that makes things white. Goes on to say, funny thing though, the chemical they add to paint to get that sparkly white color is the same ingredient added to foods like skim milk to make them more skim milk.
Oh my God.
Yep. Baby food. Yep. No, skim milk to food. When we come back, I'll tell you a little bit more research that I've done on titanium dioxide, this white coloring agent, and I'll tell you if I find some foods that it's in. Oh, it's found in chewing gum, too. We'll be right back with Dr. Norm Shealy. So, class, if you want to make sure you get your minimum daily dose of toxins, specifically titanium dioxide, in your foods, I found a list of some foods that may contain titanium dioxide. So you want to read the label, and if the label's accurate, it may reflect that titanium dioxide is in the following foods. You're not going to believe what you're going to hear, because I'm sure you're going to have it today. It's almost impossible not to have your daily dose of titanium dioxide in your food. Here we go. Condiments, including mayonnaise, mustard, horseradish cream, and vinegar. Nut spreads, such as almond and peanut butter. Confectionery sugar. Desserts, such as custard, tapioca pudding, sherbet, sorbet. Sausage. Energy drinks labeled as sport or energy or electrolyte beverages with a water base. Cottage cheese. Cream cheese and processed cheese, processed deli meats, canned fish products, dairy drinks including chocolate milk, eggnog, kefir, or whey-based drinks, prepared foods such as potato and macaroni salad, foods containing battered fish or poultry, processed snacks such as Twinkies, and powdered donuts. It's getting harder to avoid titanium dioxide. Especially,
I have often said the food industry is as evil as the tobacco and the dentistry itself. The dental industry, I consider the ADA at least as bad as the tobacco industry because of their use of mercury and fluoride. So now they're encouraging, apparently, probably titanium oxide too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And class, you know those powdered white donuts? They've got this thick layer of powdery white, sugary stuff on them. Okay. Well, Dunkin' Donuts is allegedly removing nano titanium dioxide from their powdered sugar donuts. So we don't know if they actually have or they haven't, or I don't know it. But what about the other powdered donuts? So you look at this box of donuts in the store and you go, well, it's small, and there's a whole bunch of them in there. I won't eat them all right now. I might just have one. Titanium dioxide is probably in that powdered sugar. Gosh, it's marketing. How to hoodwink the public. And the problem is that these particles are really small and they cause damage. And so at this point we don't know if it is a cause of type 1 or type 2 diabetes. But we do know that there's a link in the explosive use of titanium dioxide and the explosive results of diabetes. The bottom line is, it's kind of simple. I mean, Dr. Shealy said it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Shealy, packaged food, processed food?
Right.
Probably not good.
80%. 80% of all the food in an average grocery store is junk, and that now means poison.
I'm looking at a person. I don't see the person in this picture. So it's an image on the internet. And there's a shopping cart. And I'm just looking down the aisle. There's this electric, I'm talking about the packaging, okay? These colors are not found in nature. The colors of the packaging. Even Barilla spaghetti, okay? In the blue box that they use, I don't think that's a color that you'd find very often in nature. And then they have this electric green, the electric orange, the electric pink, the electric yellow, of course, electric blue. The packaging of the food, alleged food, in these boxes and bags. Why would we think that these colors would relate to wholesome food? Why would we think that? I guess we wouldn't. But we've been accustomed. And I'm looking down this aisle in this image. All of the colors are designed to attract your attention. Buy me, buy me, buy me. That's what this is all about. Not that it's really good for you. And class, how many times have you gone to a restaurant? I'm talking about where you actually sit down, and that gal or guy who is serving the food says to you, quote, "So how's the taste?" Or how did that taste? Well, the answer is, well, it tastes great because it's engineered to do that. But I think I'm going to be sick in 20 minutes. How does it taste? That's like selling a washing machine on features. Well, it does these 47 different features. But will it last 2 years? We're not interested anymore in durability. We're not interested in, can it be repaired? We're interested in features and feeling good right this moment. We're not interested in the future. And that gets back to your latest book that you're writing, right? On conscientiousness.
Oh, yes.
Being deliberate. Man.
Just,
I asked one.
The word is thinking. Thinking.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Straight thinking. I mean, good heavens. Humanity has not come very far in the last 2,000 years. In fact, it's fallen in many, many respects.
I was talking to one of our instructors, who knows me pretty well, over the weekend. And I said to him, so you think the Finelli family is kind of odd? And I was very serious about this. And he said, oh, you guys sure are different. And then I said, okay, so tell me more. And he said, well, you don't do anything partially. If you're going to do it, it's going to take you longer, and you won't be happy unless you think it's perfect. And he's absolutely right, Dr. Shealy. No matter what it is, I'm not interested in doing anything half-baked. Oh, that'll be good enough. Yeah, well, the expression, an older friend of mine from Missouri, he's a native Missourian, and his expression, well, that's good enough for the girls we run with. So I think it's kind of demeaning to the girls that he was running with, or maybe it's just a colloquialism, or they're just kidding with that expression. But that's good enough for the girls we run with. Well, but to me, if I'm building a wall, it's got to be plumb and square. I mean, it's got to be, or I'm not happy with it, because I know later on I'm going to have trouble with everything I do in that room if the wall isn't plumb or square and the floor is not level and so forth. But I think that's something that we need to teach our young people in school, that half-baked is not good enough. It's not good enough. And it comes back to my parents and the way they let me grow up, and they encouraged me. And it goes back to that guy. I wish I could remember his name. He was my very first shop foreman at Sears Automotive when they hired me to be a young mechanic in one of the bays. If you brought your car into Sears to have muffler or brakes or tires or whatever it was, they assigned to whatever bay number I had. If you got me, that was my, I would work on your vehicle. Well, the boss, day number one, put his arm over my shoulder, and I remember this very, very clearly. This is in the 70s. He said, "Vinny, day number one on the job. Vinny, remember this. May the job be big or small. Do it right or not at all." And I've remembered that, and I try darn hard to do that with everything. Everything. I was showing one of our instructors how to change his oil. So we put their SUV up on the lift, over the weekend. And so I said, they can change the oil in 15 minutes at one of those quick lube places. And I said, my son will change somebody's oil, but it takes him 2 hours. And I said, all right, so the vehicle's hot, let's pull the drain plug out and let's start the oil draining. And then when it started to just drip, 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 I put a can, like a soup can, underneath that oil drip. And I said, okay, let's just see how much oil comes out while we do the rest of the inspection. So we inspected the wheel bearings, the brakes, we lubricated all the front suspension, we checked the shock absorbers, the muffler, we opened up the differential, it was low on differential fluid, we opened up the front wheel drive, it was 20 ounces low on differential fluid. So we found it took 2 hours. It took 2 hours for us to go through the inspection, checking the tire inflation, check the tires for front end alignment, balance, all those kinds of things that we just looked at. It took 2 hours to do this oil change. Then when we're all done, I said, okay, let's look at how much oil came out of this the engine since we've been looking at all these other things, this drip, drip, drip of the oil. Well, it was a lot of oil in this can. So that's the amount of oil that would be left in your engine if you went to one of those quick oil change places, because they can do it in 15 minutes. We can't because it takes 2 hours. We don't know how to do 2 hours worth of work in 15 minutes. And Dr. Shealy, you don't know how to do an examination of a patient in 7 minutes, right?
I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah. So that gets all back to your book, your latest book on conscientiousness, being very deliberate. And if you'd like, I'd love to hear more about your thoughts on that when we come back. Dr. Norman Shealy is with us, normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com. Dr. Shealy, so to contact you to set up an appointment, if one of our class would like to do that, what number should they call?
417-351-5221.
Okay, class, 417-351-5221. Repeat, 417-351-5221. That is in Springfield, Missouri, if you'd like to meet with Dr. Shealy, set up a telephone conversation. for a visit or over the telephone consultation that can happen. 417-351-5221. Dr. Shealy, before we get into conscientiousness, I had a brief chat with Andy, and he's our engineer today. And I said, so how's it going? He said, well, I'm a little tired. I said, so what's up? He said, well, I've been working 12 hours going on 14. So, okay, well, so you're working a night shift? He said, yeah. So I said, I'd like to mention this to Dr. Shealy and let you know what Dr. Shealy thinks about overnight work shifts. Dr. Shealy, you have some thoughts on this, don't you?
Well, it's about as bad as smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. That's the equivalent. Basically, it shortens your life. It makes you far less productive, making many more mistakes, but more importantly, it really endangers your health and is responsible. It's a major stress. It's something that, you've got to be very careful about. The longer you do it, the more unhealthy it is.
Mm-hmm. So it's not equivalent. So 8 hours during the day is not the same as 8 hours overnight, yes?
No, there's overwhelming evidence that only night sleeping is healthy, or optimally healthy.
Okay. So, Andy, I hope you got a chance to hear that. And is there a fix to that, or is the fix work during the day and go to sleep at night?
That is the only fix I know that's really healthy. Now, if you don't sleep well during the day, you could take melatonin, although I'm sure he's much too young to start thinking about that. And there are certain types of music that are particularly good for inducing sleep, but nothing's like just good old normal fatigue. Okay.
So, Andy, it's been nice working with you. So, Andy, you've got to work out an arrangement where you get some sleep during the day. And Dr. Shealy, what about if you work, let's say Monday through Friday, and you're working a night shift? Then the weekend you're off. Now, is your body messed up because now you want to switch schedules and sleep at night and work during the day, and then come Monday you're back to that offset schedule again?
Right. No, I mean the whole week's screwed up.
Okay. All right. Conscientiousness. What would you like to share with us, Dr. Shealy, about conscientious behavior?
It's such common sense, the uncommon commodity. I mean, common sense is you do things well. Maybe nobody could do it quite as enthusiastically and completely well as the Finelli family, but I'm only half teasing.
Yes.
But you do it well, or you don't do it, and you're honest with yourself. You can't be dishonest with yourself. You can think you can, but the body knows, the mind knows, and so you got to be organized. You got to be responsible, and it's sort of a requirement for a healthy life. In fact, we know that.
I met this guy in Virginia, and he said, I built this house in 7 days. And he probably did, okay? But when you walk in the front door, the first thing you notice is it squeaks. The first step you take, the floor is sagging. And
you wonder if it's going to fall down before you get across the room.
Well, and the point is, when I used to write papers, at the bank, they'd say, we want you to write a position paper on XYZ. And I could bang that thing out, and it'd be half-baked, but no one would say, yeah, but Vinny, I know it's lousy, but Vinny did it faster than anybody else. They'd never remember that. They'd say, Vinny did a lousy job. So, and that's something, that's back to that guy at Sears Automotive. May the job be big or small, do it right or not at all. And that's exactly what you said, Dr. Shealy. Thanks so much for being with us. See you next week.